we could call the meeting to order. Everybody rise for the Lord's Prayer, please. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Councilor Broderick.
Here.
Councilor Caulfield.
Here.
Councilor Donahue.
Here.
Councilor Elliott.
Here.
Mayor Martin.
Here.
Councilor Armand Mercia.
Here.
Councilor Rita Mercia.
Here.
Councilor Milanazzo.
Here.
Councilor Ramirez. Here. 9 present.
9 present. First item on the agenda is a report from Deborah Belanger of the Convention and Visitors Bureau to present her annual report. Ms. Belanger.
Mr. Mayor, City Councilors, Mr. Manager, thank you for allowing me to come before you tonight. Before I provide our year-end report, please allow me to introduce a few of the members of the CVB Board of Directors that are here. We have Kim Walsh from the Songus Arena, as well as the CVB Board Chair, State Representative Thomas Golden. Our primary mission at the Convention and Visitors Bureau is to increase visitation to our region and to enhance the economic fabric of our community. The City of Lowell has continually invested funds in the Convention and Visitors Bureau since its inception 14 years ago. Last year, we received $100,000 to market and promote the city as a premier destination for meetings, conventions, first-class sporting events, and citywide consumer events. As you can see from our convention activity poster board to your right, in fiscal year '06, you also have copies in front of you as well. In fiscal year '06, the City of Lowell hosted such events as the Colonial Classic Synchronized Skating, the State Republican Convention, the Order of Eastern Star, Monadnock Police Training, and of course, we can't forget the 2000 Men's World Curling Championship. Those were just a few of the events that we hosted. Because of the cooperative spirit among the city administration, the management teams at both the Songus Arena and the Lowell Memorial Auditorium, as well as the business community, convention activity in 2006 brought in $9 million in direct economic impact to the greater Lowell region. In addition to that, Lowell has received worldwide exposure through print, radio, and broadcast outlets such as ESPN and MSNBC from the 2006 Men's World Curling Championship. As a matter of fact, Lowell was mentioned this past Sunday in a curling article as the 2006 host city for the World Men's Curling Championship last April. This article was written by an Associated Press reporter, and I have no doubt that this article was picked up by a number of newspapers across the country. In addition to the impact the CVB has on convention activity in the city of Lowell, the CVB is a partner in many of the citywide festivals. These festivals increase economic activity and play a crucial role in enhancing the quality of life for our residents. If you watched all the smiling faces at the City of Lights parade on Saturday, or if you read the interview with Gladys Dyer, a local resident in the Sunday Sun, she said the City of Lights parade was terrific. She viewed the parade with her sister, who was visiting from Magnolia. Gladys told us the parade really does bring the whole community together. It takes a team effort to put these events on. The CVB plays an active role in the fundraising for both Winterfest and the City of Lights Parade. And as the fiscal agent for these two events, as well as for Ribbon and Brews. All citywide events include the Folk Festival. The Quilt Festival are included in our marketing efforts and are also part of our visitor services program. Our very committed volunteer ambassadors play a critical role in welcoming all visitors at these events. They provide dining options, answer general questions, and market our upcoming events, as well as encourage return visits to the national park, museums, stores, and performance venues in the city of Lowell. As you can see from our visitation poster board, over 1.5 million people visit the city of Lowell annually. Friendly people, great attitudes, old-fashioned hospitality, clear signage, clean streets, walking maps, and visitor guidebooks are all important components to leaving a lasting impression and enticing visitors to return. Here's an example of the power of old-fashioned hospitality. When Lowell suffered from the floods last spring, Kay Sukahara, honorary chair of the 2006 Men's World Curling Championship, felt that this city gave as much to him and his sport. He personally gave a generous check of $10,000 to the people of Lowell who were most affected by the floods. Return visits are key in our overall marketing strategies. These repeat visits continually fuel new money into our community. Pat Ronan from the Colonial Classic Synchronized Skating Club, which is scheduled to hold its 6th event in Lowell in 2007, tells us, and I quote, "The Greater Merrimack Valley Convention and Visitors Bureau makes it possible for a group of parent volunteers to organize and run an event like a professional promoter. The Northeast District of the Barbershop Harmony Society also has its 4th convention in Lowell scheduled for 2007. Rick Berry of the Lowell Gentlemen Songsters tells us, "It is my belief that the Lowell Memorial Auditorium is the best venue we sing in, period." The strong cooperation among the city, the Greater Merrimack Valley Convention and Visitors Bureau, and the Lowell Memorial Auditorium are far ahead of any I have seen in creating a good experience for convention goers. Greg Taub, reporting on the 2003 Fed Cup in Lowell at USTA, tells us, "When you drive through Lowell, Massachusetts, the last thing you would expect is that this little city could host a major sporting event like the Fed Cup. But once you stay here and look around, once you soak in the atmosphere and emotions that were put into this week, you realize that you can't measure heart and enthusiasm by a mile." Because of these testimonials and the others on our testimonial poster board, the City of Lowell is poised to host repeat business and generate new business for years to come. We have the infrastructure, we have the cooperative spirit, we must keep the marketing efforts strong. Your continued support of the CVB is critical to the ongoing success of the City of Lowell. There is no organization more crucial to the economic health of the community than one that promotes tourism. Thank you once again for your time, and on behalf of the CVB and our Board of Directors, we look forward to 2007 and beyond. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah. Councilor Mercier?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would just through you to Deb Belanger. I'm just very proud of all the efforts that you have done to promote tourism in our city, and we rely on the businesses to spur the economy, and it's only fair that we should reciprocate by doing what we can to bring in people to go to the restaurants, to the different museums and things like that. But I want to simply thank the Ambassador Program for all the people that volunteer to make all the efforts worthwhile. And so to them, I want to thank them along with your board. Thank you, Deb.
Thank you. Councilor Milonazo?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Deb. Again, I think that the CVB does a wonderful job, the staff, the board, on behalf of my colleagues, thank you. My question has to do with the hotel tax. Do we benefit from the hotel tax in the greater Merrimack Valley area?
In the city of Lowell, absolutely. Every person that comes to the state of Massachusetts pays 9.7% sales tax for each room that they stay in. 4% of that goes back to the local community, and 5.7% goes to the state. So it has ranged anywhere from $200,000 a year to $450,000, I believe, was the largest year in 2001 that was back to the city. And the funds that we get just help us keep reinvesting in promoting the city.
Thank you. Councilor Caulfield?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, it was an excellent presentation. Deb Belanger and the entire staff should be applauded, especially State Representative Thomas Golem for his efforts throughout the state. And the city is booming economically because of the CVB and your continued efforts. And the World Curling Championships, almost $5 million to the economy. Outstanding, outstanding. And there were, I believe, 12 different countries in our city.
Right. There were 12 different countries.
And they were really appreciative of your efforts and the efforts of the entire city for rolling out the red carpet for them. So,
With a lot of people involved in that event.
yeah, congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Councilor Broderick?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had the pleasure of hearing this presentation a short time ago, and I spoke with Councilor Eileen Donahue and Councilor Caulfield, who I believe are on the marketing subcommittee, and Deb Belanger. I thought it would be a good idea to call a meeting for the marketing subcommittee again to bring in the CVB, the Chamber, the Lowell Plan. Cool now is getting money from the city, and also the manager and DPD, who, and O'Sullivan, I think it's O'Sullivan Communications, get together and find out what everyone's doing. It'll be a good time to see how we can all fit the pieces of the puzzle together to maximize our return. And I appreciate the presentation. I look forward. I think the 18th at 5:30. It's a Monday, December 18th, and Deb has indicated she can make it. So I guess we can reach out to the other partners. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Donahue?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In preparation for that meeting, I think it is an important meeting. I think, obviously, in these economic times, you know, we all have a commitment to marketing the city, and I think that's one that should be continued. We also have to look at where we're going to spend the marketing dollars. So, to that end, can we get in preparation for the meeting a report on the hotel tax over the past 5 years? What we've taken in, what we've given out. And then maybe if CVB can give us a breakdown on the hotel rooms in the report, how many are Lowell hotel rooms versus outside of the city of Lowell. I just think we need to have all the information in order to assess the dollars coming out of the city coffers.
Okay, anyone else from the council? Thank you, Ms. Belanger. I don't, Representative Golden, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Now that you say it. To the council, I just want to say thank you very much for all the support you've shown the CVB. We try to always put our best foot forward, but if we didn't have good partners that are seated right here in front of us, there's no way it would have the ability to pull off things like the World Curling. Everyone that's gone to World Curling knows how much of an event it was. It was a 5 to 6 year struggle to get it here, and we have people all over the world and all over this country talking about Lowell, Massachusetts, and it's because of all the help of the people in this room, and it's because of the help of the Convention and Visitors Bureau. So to that, I just want to say thank you very much. I did have a 25-minute speech, but I figured you folks had something else to talk about. But I want to thank you for all of your help and all of your dedication to the city. And I know the CVB will be there in the future. If anyone has any other ideas or thoughts or comments, please forward them to myself or Deb, and would be more than willing to sit down and talk about how to better market the city of Lowell, because at the end of the day, it's about marketing the area, marketing the city of Lowell, and ensuring that people come back to the city of Lowell and we get that repeat business. Because with repeat business, we know that they line the restaurants that we have, and that's what we're really looking to happen. So thank you again for all your support in the past, and we appreciate it, and look forward to working with all of you in the future. Thank you again, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, motion to accept the report and refer the report to the Marketing Subcommittee by Councilor Broderick, seconded by Councilor Donahue. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Any opposed? The matter is referred to the Marketing Subcommittee. Next item on the agenda is acceptance of the minutes of the November 21st meeting. Motion to approve by Councilor Elliott, second by Councilor Milanazzo. All those in favor of that motion say aye. Any opposed? The minutes are approved. Under the city manager's portion of the agenda, we have communications from the city manager with respect to responses for council motions and requests. Any questions concerning any of those responses? Councilor Caulfield.
I don't have a question about a response. I just want to bring it forward, Mr. Manager, that over the weekend there was some vandalism at Calway Park. Graffiti, barrels tipped over park benches. And I would just like to see the presence of the police there. From the residents told me that teenagers were walking up the street and teenagers were walking and they're confronting each other. So just to nip it in the bud, I'd like to see something done at Calway Park. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Rita Mercier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In regards to my colleague's statements, I did get the same complaint. I did refer this information to Tom Bellegarde, the Commissioner of Parks, and I'm sure that he moved accordingly.
Thank you. If I could also comment from here, Mr. Manager, I did receive this complaints from some very concerned residents in the Calway Park neighborhood, and some of whom put a great deal of time and effort into helping maintain the park. And it's not just an issue of cleaning up the vandalism. I know Commissioner Bellegarde has probably already got it done by now, but they're concerned there's been, I think, some increased police presence in the area of the Morey School, and some concern that the trouble is leaving there and now coming to Calway Park. So to the extent we can increase police presence in that area as well, I think that has gone a long way toward helping the problem at the Morey School, and we need to do the same around Calway Park.
Yes.
Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And to add one note further, I did call the police department and talk to the sector commander, Captain Jack Webb, who I felt should have notified about that, so we
Thank you.
did cover the basis.
Councilor Caulfield.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to echo your feelings. If we don't nip this in the bud, it could escalate into something much bigger and worse. And the residents are concerned. I'm concerned. I know my colleagues are. Tipping a barrel in the middle of B Street is one thing, but I was told that they tried to light the roof on fire of one of the dugouts. And I know the concession stand this past summer was broken into. So these youngsters who think that they can do what they want, I think we have to bring the police department forward and say, you can't. And, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Manager.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, I also received a report from Commissioner Bellegarde regarding this matter, and we will be working with the police department to increase patrols in that area and just have a greater presence to try to alleviate this problem. We are going to be talking about that tomorrow at our staff meeting.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions or comments on city manager communications? Okay. Motion to accept the communications from the city manager by Councilor Milanazzo, seconded by Councilor Broderick. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The communications are accepted. The next item is a vote authorizing the city manager to apply, accept, and expend funds from a grant from the United States Department of Environmental Protection 2007 Brownfield Cleanup Grant Program in the amount of $400,000. Whereas the City of Lowell is desirous of applying for a grant from the United States Environmental Protection Agency 2007 Brownfield Cleanup Grant, whereas the grant will make available to the city the total sum of $400,000 for the cleanup of two properties at 291 Jackson Street and 351 Jackson Street, $200,000 for each property. Now therefore be it voted by the City Council of the City of Lowell that the city manager be and hereby is authorized to apply, accept, and expend funds from the United States Environmental Protection Agency 2007 Brownfield Cleanup Grant in the amount of $400,000. Be it further voted that the city manager, on behalf of the City of Lowell, be and hereby is authorized to execute any and all documents necessary in connection with said grant from the United States Environmental Protection Agency 2007 Brownfield Cleanup Grant Program, including expenditure thereof. Second reading by title, a vote authorizing the city manager to apply, accept, and expend funds from a grant from the United States Environmental Protection Agency 2007 Brownfield Grant Cleanup Program in the amount of $400,000. Questions or comments?
Move for approval.
Motion to approve by Councilor Caulfield, second by Councilor Broderick. Roll call.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Donahue?
Yes. Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Present.
Mayor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Arman Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Ramirez? Yes. 8 yeas, 1 present.
The matter is approved. Under petitions, there is one claim for personal injury. Motion to refer that to the Law Department by Councilor Broderick, second by Councilor Milonazo. All those in favor of referring this matter to the Law Department say aye. Any opposed? The matter is referred to the Law Department. Any subcommittee reports? Councilor Milonazo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Rules Subcommittee met at 5:30 this evening. The purpose was to discuss the issue of prayer at city council meetings, and we met with representatives of the Greater Lowell Interfaith Leadership Alliance. And again, the meeting had to do with, as I stated, prayer at city council meetings, and I think we had a good dialogue. We didn't take any official action, or we don't have a recommendation to bring before the full council tonight. I will tell you that their proposal, the Interfaith Alliance proposal at the present time, is to have an opening prayer at every city council meeting, and that prayer would be chosen from a list of 5 prayers that they have put forward that we do as a subcommittee have before us at the present time. We went back and forth with some discussion around keeping the Lord's Prayer based on tradition. It's been, as we all know, a tradition to open the meeting with the Lord's Prayer for the last 40 years. So based upon tradition, keep the Lord's Prayer and then alternate one of the other prayers that has been suggested by the Leadership Alliance. What we all agreed to do is to take a step back. They were going to go back and talk to their membership, see if that proposal that we had put forward, again, not in a formal fashion, just in the way of discussion, is something that the Leadership Alliance may be able to support. So, again, by way of a report of more information and progress, because there was nothing official in the way of a vote taken, we continue to meet and continue to discuss the issue. We also researched what other communities are doing, which I was happy to provide to the members of the Leadership Alliance. And again, we will probably meet in the next 3 to 4 weeks to discuss this again and bring some additional information back. City Solicitor O'Connor was there and will be providing us with some additional guidance as well.
Okay, thank you. Anything further on the subcommittee report? Motion, Councilor Mercia, did you want to be heard?
He covered it.
Okay.
Good.
Motion to accept the report as a report of progress by Councilor
Second.
Milonazo, second by Councilor Rita Mercia. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The report is accepted. Further subcommittee reports, Councilor Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Finance Subcommittee met this evening at 5 o'clock as an ongoing discussion from 2 weeks ago when there was a meeting to discuss the FY07 budget. And, of course, part of that discussion is increase in fees, which is before us this evening. Other items that were discussed before we get on to the fee increases, the manager explained, and we all received a report from the CFO, Mr. Moses, on the audit that for FY06 this past year, and we also were updated on free cash that I'll ask the manager to update the council on. Excuse me, the public, because most members were there from at the Finance Subcommittee meeting. Not much has changed from the last meeting. Manager did indicate the time frame for addressing budget shortfall, revenue projections, tax levy would be December 12th. depending upon what takes place tonight. Tonight there is a public hearing on the fee schedule, which is part of one method of raising revenue, raising money to offset the gap that we do still have. So with that, it was a meeting about a half an hour. Discussions took place on the recap sheet, which will coincide with our free cash deficit that seems to be growing. We don't have a firm answer on that. We're working with the Department of Revenue, which again is part of our annual year-end closing process. So with that, Mr. Manager, I'll turn it over to you. And again, most of the votes that will be taking place will be setting the tax rate. That will set the tax rate will be December 12th. So, Mr. Manager, with that, if you can just update us on the audit as well as the recap sheet.
Sure. If I
Mr.
may,
Manager.
Mr. Mayor, councilors, I think Councilor Elliott really summarized everything I would have to say. There hasn't been a lot of change since the last time we discussed the budget situation. I guess the only we still are looking at a shortfall or a difference between what was voted in June and what we now see as the revenues that are available to us. A difference of about $8 million that we're trying to close. We're trying to eliminate that gap, and we've identified a strategy that relies upon reductions in a number of cost items, a number of cuts in the discretionary operational budgets of 1%. And then looking at increasing our fees, which the council will take up tonight, and looking at the filling in the gap with an increase in the taxes. We're also looking, as you know, at providing some tax relief to the portion of our elderly population. We'll also have some additional costs to the city overall, but provide some mitigation to the tax increase that we're proposing. The free cash situation is outlined in the audit, the memo on the audit that was provided to you. Basically shows that at this point in time, the fund balance for the city is at a negative $300,000. When the Department of Revenue finishes reviewing that and looks at all of our balance sheets, they'll probably be looking at a total free cash number of negative $1.5 to $2 million, which, as we discussed at the subcommittee meeting, is roughly $5.5 million off from where City Council thought it would be back in June. When you voted the budget, you acted under the assumption, you were told that there'd be $3.5 million of free cash. In reality, it's that negative number that we're looking at. That is, so it's in terms of money that can be put towards the FY07 budget, we're to zero that can be put towards the budget. So we have to close that gap, and that's part of that $8 million problem that we're looking at. In terms of the time frame that we're looking at the revenue, fee increases tonight. We'll be looking at budget reductions and budget changes on December 12th, as well as the looking at the making the necessary change in the tax exemption provisions that we utilize here in the city to provide that little bit of tax relief. And then from that, we'll be able to file the necessary paperwork with the Department of Revenue that will allow them then to approve all of our finances for this year, approve the tax rate that we will have computed, and be able to send out those third quarter tax bills. I know that you went through the very difficult process last year of 3 separate meetings at the last week of December. We're certainly well ahead of that in terms of by meeting December 12th, and we anticipate that it'll be a simple meeting one night that we'll be able to wrap all of this up and get that paperwork into the Department of Revenue.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Manager. Councilor Elliott.
That's really a report of progress until December 12th, which would lead to the fee structure. Mr. Manager, I know at the last Finance Subcommittee meeting, there was some questions, particularly by Councilor Rita Mercier, on what the impact would be for our the cost to increase, the fee to increase. Garbage collection is in this fee structure tonight. One question was, can we reduce the fee to our elderly citizens because it is increasing $5? We'd like to scale that back. What would be the impact of that reduction?
Council, as I pointed out, this is one leg of our strategy, is increasing fees. The single largest revenue source within the fee increases we're talking about, we're looking to raise about $800,000 for this fiscal year out of through increasing fees. The largest one is solid waste, solid waste fee. The elderly component of that is relatively small. If we were to leave that flat, the cost to the budget would be about $12,500. The CFO and I have gone back and looked at that. We've calculated that number. We think that that's something that could be accommodated through other modifications within the budget. And if the council so wishes, we will make those necessary adjustments. And if you choose to leave it flat, we think that's something we can handle.
Well, considering the tax situation, I think that's the least we can do. But just for the general public, there are 36 pages of fees that have been made available that are going up, that range from liquor licenses to amusement licenses, dog licenses. But as the manager did indicate, most of it is relative to garbage collection, which is at $72 per year. It will increase. It will increase to cover that cost. It's been running at a deficit, which essentially goes on the tax rate anyway. We did receive a memo that on recommendations on how to reduce this cost, but this fee hasn't been raised, and nobody likes to raise fees, but it is the cost to transport and dispose, as well as recycling. There's an article in the paper, the more we can recycle, the better off we are. Which 1% is $53,000. If we can use help from residents to do that, but it has been raised since 1988, according to this report. So, and costs certainly have increased. Tipping fees have increased dramatically since that time. So that's the report from the Finance Subcommittee. When this was referred, there were some changes that we felt that council should just bring to the floor of the council rather than make them in the subcommittee and then bring them forward, that some may agree or may not agree. So there is no recommendation other than those items that members of the council may want to decrease, such as that elderly exemption will be made here on the floor. And the solicitor did indicate that would not be a substantive change. That should be done at this level. So that's a report, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Manager.
Okay. Motion to accept the report of the Finance Subcommittee by Councilor Broderick, second by Councilor Milanazzo. All those in favor of accepting the report say aye. Any opposed? The report is accepted. Further subcommittee reports? Okay. Councilor Rita Mercia?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before I forget, and I'd like to suspend the rules to address the situation about the elevator at the Shaughnessy School that someone called up this afternoon. I couldn't get the motion, and I just wanted to bring it forward if there's no objection.
A motion to suspend the rules to consider elevator at the Shaughnessy School by Councilor Rita Mercia, second by Councilor Caulfield. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The rules are suspended. Councilor Rita Mercia.
Mr. Mayor, I'm bringing this request to you as the head of the school committee to address the elevator situation at the Shaughnessy School. It has been broken since the beginning of the year. That's in September. It has not been fixed yet, and we're almost in December. That, to me, is unacceptable. We have special needs children in that school with brittle bones that can't maneuver the stairs. We have special needs children that are in wheelchairs. That's not acceptable to me. That's too long of a time. Even a day or two would be a long time, but to not have it working, that's outrageous, and I wish you would bring that request to the school department.
I certainly will, Councilor. Just so you know, there have been ongoing problems with a number of elevators, and we have been repairing them, and I thought they were all taken care of. If that one's not taken care of, we will certainly get that addressed forthwith.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, I think that concludes the agenda except for the public hearings. So we'll move to the public hearings. The first public hearing is there are 4 items for consideration from National Grid. 2 from last week and 2 from this week. Any objection to considering them all together? Okay, so one is for a pole location on Fletcher Street. The second is a conduit in Smith Street. Third is a pole location in Smith Street. And a fourth is a pole location on Ina Street. We'll open the public hearing for those wishing to speak in favor. Anybody wishing to speak in favor of this item, these items, please come forward. Give us your name and address for the record, please.
David Boucher, National Grid, 1101 Turnpike Street, North Andover, Mass. I'm here on behalf of National Grid to represent the company to ask the City of Lowell to pass these particular petitions. Right tonight, I was not aware that we were carrying over 2 from last week. I will address them as best as I can with you. But for tonight on Smith Street, there are some new condos going in. What we're asking to do is replace an existing pole in a different position, relocate is a better word, and remove the old one for the new condos, for the planned driveway they have there. Secondly, on Ina Street, we have a new house that went in, and what we're asking is to place a new pole on the street to enable us to bring electricity to serve that new resident/customer. The City of Lowell would see fit, would enable us to go forward with these 2. That's what I was prepared for tonight. I wasn't aware that we were talking about last week. You did mention the conduits, which would have something to do with Smith Street also. There are 2 poles, pole 13 and 14, that we'd like to run primary electricity into the new condo to service a transformer. That I could kind of explain, understanding what's going on Smith Street. As far as Fletcher Street, I'm not sure. But
I believe the Fletcher Street one is the new development at the Acre Triangle. For councilor's information, the clerk has informed me of that.
And just to finalize, the city sees fit, it would enable us to go forward with these projects. And if you have any questions, I'll try to answer them.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak in favor? Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of these items? Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Anybody wishing to speak in opposition? In opposition? Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Councilor Rita Mercia?
Refer to the wire inspector.
Motion to refer to the wire inspector by Councilor Rita Mercia, seconded by Councilor Caulfield. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The matter referred to the wire inspector for report and recommendation. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay, the next public hearing is the public hearing on the proposed fee increases. An ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, as amended by amending Chapter 11, Article 1, and Article 2 with respect to fees for licenses and permits. This goes on for some 30, 40 pages. A motion to waive the full reading by Councilor Broderick, seconded by Councilor Donahue. All those in favor of waiving the first full reading say aye. Any opposed? The reading is waived. Second reading by title. An ordinance amending the Code of Ordinances, City of Lowell, Massachusetts, as amended by amending Chapter 11, Articles 1 and 2 with respect to fees for licenses and permits. We'll open the public hearing for those wishing to speak in favor. Anybody wishing to speak in favor of these increases? Name and address, please.
My name is Patrick O'Connor. I live at 38 Faux Street in the City of Lowell. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Mayor. I take this opportunity to welcome Mr. Lynch, Mr. Moses to the City of Lowell. I came out here, I'm not definitely speaking in favor of raising fees in the city, but I'm not here to speak against them neither. I'm here to find out, or to have this council give a little bit of a learning experience on the difference between a fee and a tax. As you all know, we all pay water fees in this city. And through a number of years, if the water department and the fees that we pay to the water pay for all their expenditures, cover any debt service that they have or any business expenses that they have, then you shouldn't be raising these fees. Now, I know for a fact that in the past several years that the water department has generated revenue in this city. And you can go back to, I think it was in 1972 when the people of this state voted in Prop 2.5. And the reason they voted in Prop 2.5, as you all well know, is to put a cap on the amount of money that cities and towns could tax people. And at that time, our water fees, our sewer fees, trash fees were all included in our taxes. But through intelligent government or smart business, they took all these fees out, isolated them into different categories so they could charge people more on the tax side of the city side or the town, whatever. And a fee became a fee. When you take surplus money from any fee and put it into the general fund, it now becomes a tax. I looked at our city budget this year. Our wastewater enterprise, under revenue in the city budget for 2006 had $2.5 million. For 2007, we had $1 million under revenue. Was that all surplus money in wastewater? Wastewater is an enterprise system. Enterprise systems have guidelines and rules on how they're supposed to be run and where the money's supposed to go. Not to mention the fact that there's more than just this city in that enterprise system. And if there's surplus money, it ought to go back to the users, or according to what law I know, it's supposed to go back into a special account. We all have problems in the city. I know you hear that you want to raise money. You have a budget that you have to cover. I got a copy of the budget, and the expenditures and the revenues balanced out. That's what I saw as a taxpayer in this city. And then all of a sudden, 3 or 4 weeks later, we had a $5 million shortfall. We got a $6 million shortfall. Whose fault is that? Sorry, people, you're the council. You're ultimately responsible for this budget. You voted it. And now your only solution is to come to us and either raise our fees. You know you're going to raise our taxes. You got young couples in this city trying to hold on to their home. When they get a $50 a month increase or a $100 a month increase in their mortgage, that hurts them. When you have seniors trying to hold on to their family home, that hurts them. And I know you all know this. You're going to have to make some tough decisions. And if cuts have to go along with, then cuts have to be made. I can tell you one thing from my opinion. In reviewing this budget, the biggest cost in this city is employee benefits. You want to save money? You can sit there, read the laws on the retirement system and go over it well and look into the amount of money we're putting into that system. There are guidelines on that as well. And it's an awful lot of money that we're paying for that system. I've been out here a number of times in the past. Again, I've always looked for an explanation. I came here to you, and I'll say to you again, what's the difference between a fee and a tax? So thank you for your time, and have a very good night.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak in favor? Anyone in favor? Anyone speaking, wishing to speak in favor? Okay. Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Anybody wishing to speak in opposition? In opposition? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Councilor Rita Mercier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a number of questions and recommendations, and I know, as previous speakers said, that it's something that's before us that we're going to try to fill that gap in some way that we can, and I'm trying to do that as well. But on the same token, it's not easy for us as a council to raise fees, which in my personal opinion is nothing but another tax. Having said that, in fact, I wish they would call it a tax, so then maybe you could then deduct it from your income tax. You can't do that with a fee, but you can do it with a tax, so if we could probably do that, it would help the taxpayer. But be that as it may, I'm concerned about some of them being a little bit too steep. So I'm going to make some recommendations. If my colleagues want to support that, that's fine. If you don't, that's all right as well, but I'm trying my best here, because there's 36 pages, and I'll try to move this along rather smoothly. And I'm glad, Mr. Manager, that you have the department heads here, because this is important, because a lot of this is questions. And I'm taking you, first of all, to page 9 of the 36 here, which we're under the Health Department, and we're on line 245, which is night soil. Do you follow me here? I wanted to know what night soil was from the Health Department. I think I have an idea what it is. I think it's septic waste or whatever, I think it is. And it's going from the current fee being $75 to $125. I think this is a little bit too steep, in my personal opinion, so I would make a recommendation that it's raised to $100 instead of the $125. I don't know if we can do that. Can we do this?
Well, I think, Counselor, you're entitled to make a motion to amend this proposal, but I would...
I don't know how we're working this, but I have a few of these.
But if there are questions, what I would suggest is we handle all the questions first.
Well, I don't know that till I get from one page to another.
All right. So is that a question about what this is?
No,
or-
it's a motion to reduce it to $100, the proposed fee, instead of $125. I think from $75 to $125 is a little bit too steep. That's my concern right there.
All right. So that's a motion to amend
Yes.
the proposed ordinance on line
245.
245 to reduce 125 to 100. Correct?
Right.
Okay. Second? Any second on the motion?
I have a question.
Councilor Caulfield.
Thank.
Second by Councilor Donahue.
No, it's not a second.
All right. It's not a
Just said
second.
there's no second.
Thank you.
Well, there's no second
I just want to have a question to the department head.
on this
Yes.
item.
Right.
Well, if there's no second on the motion.
Actually, it's probably to Mark Young. This is this septage going to the, it is not? What is it?
Counselor, it's the 44 septage trucks that dump at the sewer plant. We don't have any septic systems extensively in Lowell, so they're almost always the neighboring, abutting communities that bring in their septage.
This is independent
That's correct.
business people bringing their refuge to our city, and
Right.
we're just raising the fee on them.
Right, we check their insurance, we make sure these trucks are not bringing in hazardous materials and the like, but there are 44 trucks, and 99.9% of it is from outside the city.
Okay, I'll withdraw that motion. I didn't really know that that's what it was.
Motion's withdrawn.
Okay, good. Then we get that straight. I thought this was our business people within the city of Lowell. Okay. Now, we have the dumpsters. Oh, I'm on the next page, page 10, and it's line 250, which is the dumpsters on private property. And we're going from the current fee of $25 to $50. I think that's a little bit too steep. I'd go up $10 to $35.
So is that a motion,
motion.
to reduce the proposed increase from $50 to
to $35.
$35? Is there a second on that motion?
That's
All
all
right,
right.
motion fails for lack of a second.
That's okay. That's all right. I'm concerned about it. Now, I take it at
Council Elliott?
I understand Councilor Mercer's point, but I need, if we're going to make these reductions, where is the money going to come from, I think is probably the concern. Because the assumption on these fees is that, if we don't adopt these fees, that means taxes are going up more. So that's what my concern is, understanding most of these fees are, they're, people doing business or, which we don't want to hurt the businesses too much, but if we don't adopt some of these, and I support the elderly one because it's $12,000, but that still has to either make another cut or it has to increase the tax rate. So do we have any offsetting cuts for these?
Right? Councilor, all right. Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Milanazzo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Question for the city manager. On the same line item that Councilor Rita Mercier was talking about, the dumpsters, where it talks about ordinance fee and then it talks about current fee. I understand what the words mean, but why would the current fee be different than the ordinance fee?
Councilor, it's a very good question. Apparently, the ordinance says 40, but we've only been charging 25.
Okay, so the increase
For no
then,
reason.
if approved tonight, would actually only be
Bring it
$10.
at $10,
Okay,
correct.
thank you.
So what we'll be charging, 35?
No, it'd be charging 50. $10 more than what the ordinance already says.
So we created an ordinance charging 40, and we're not sticking to an ordinance that we made? I don't understand why that is.
I don't either, Counselor, but that's
well,
the
then-
situation we find ourselves.
Counsel Donahue?
Just on the dumpster, I mean, that's a relatively new ordinance it's compared to some of these other fees. Can we back charge the people? We didn't charge them enough? No, I'm only kidding. Do we have an idea? So the dumpster ordinance, we created that ordinance in recent years. So that's a pretty new fee and ordinance. All of the others, well, we know that the solid waste or the trash fee that we call it hasn't been raised since 1988, right?
Correct.
Okay. As far as I can recall, looking at all of the ordinances here, I don't remember raising any of these fees in the 11 years I've sat here. So do we know if there were, I mean, there may have been some, but not that I can recall. Have any of these been adjusted in the past 10 years, let's say?
Counselor, my understanding is that they have not been raised in at least 10 years. Nothing's changed. The only thing is that any new ordinances, like the dumpster ordinance, that new fees are established along the way. But the department heads are here if they know of any that have been increased over the last 10 years. But our review indicates that none of these have been touched in quite a while.
Okay. Well, I mean, putting aside that we need the money and, we don't, unless we're willing to drastically cut jobs. It seems to me, this reminds me of the garage issue that we had a couple of years back when we raised the fees. We hadn't touched the rates in the garage for so many years. And what happened was we looked and we were woefully undercharging for the garages. And then when we doubled the fee, we're still undercharging compared to other communities. And nobody likes paying more. But the fact is, through our own neglect, or let's say negligence by not raising the fees in a timely manner to keep up with the cost to the city, to keep up with inflation. People get angry that fees are going to get raised, but, common sense has to play a role here. And if in over, we're talking almost 20 years on the trash fee. 18 years that it hasn't been touched. Who's kidding who? We know it costs more. We know it's costing us a ton more. And so, and that's just, I use that as an example because that's the lion's share of the money that we're talking about here. But, how do we not look at these fees and people who are using it or in business and required to pay a fee? And my understanding is that from the presentation given a couple of weeks ago is that most of the departments look to area towns to find out what's being charged. So these things are not out of whack with what people are paying. In other words, we're not driving, people out of business. They're not going to say, well, I won't get a permit in Lowell because, oh my God, they charge 5 times as much as, the town next door. The fact is we're competitive with these increases with other places. So, I agree that in terms of the elderly and what an impact of a tax increase would have, that, any way that you can minimize that is certainly what we should do. But we can go through all 36 pages, but, if they haven't been touched in years and years, I think it's, negligent on our part to the taxpayers to be funding these things. Let's just talk about some of these. Someone in the city has to play a role with any of these services. People act as though, you get a permit and the city doesn't do anything for it. Well, that's not true. Inspectors, whether it's plumbing, someone has to play a role and someone has to go out and do these inspections. Dumpsters, someone has to go out and inspect the dumpsters. We hear every week that, we're not enforcing the ordinance. Well, the fact is we didn't have enough inspectors to enforce the ordinance, and we have to pay those inspectors. So, I think we're all well aware of it, but, when that was one of the reasons why I think we asked and got the report, when was the last time these fees had been raised? And I think that's the eye-opener for me, anyway, that, you know, I think we have to, in light of our economic situation, you know, make these adjustments.
Thank you. Councilor Caulfield?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's been discussed. Councilor Rita Mercier brought this forward, and Councilor Elliott has discussed it. Mr. Manager, what are we doing with the elderly trash increase? One is $9 a year more, one's $37, one's $19. Are we going to leave that at its current rate?
Our recommendation is after reviewing that, we would recommend that be kept as is and not be increased.
Thank you.
The elderly, those particular fees.
Good.
Councilor Arman Mercier?
Yeah, I just have one question, and I would like to make some comments on this. On that page 10, we have entry fee into the city water supply, where the ordinance says $500, but apparently we've been charging $777.30, which is a reverse of what we talked about a little while ago. So will these people now get a rebate for that extra $277?
We'll have the people with the dumpsters send them a check.
Okay. I guess my question is that's a considerable increase to $3,000. Is there a particular reason? And, you know, I'm not opposed to it, but that's a large increase from what should be $500, which is now $3,000.
It is as Councilor Donahue pointed out, we did, as part of our review, look at the cost of providing the service, looked at who was going to be paying this actual fee, and these are the, these are going to be the contractors, the construction people that are going to be paying this. And we looked at the area communities and similar communities to see what they charge for the same service. For instance, the town of Tingsboro, just down the street, charges $4,500. The town of Dracut, just up the street, costs $3,800. Haverhill, a similar community, is just under $3,200.
So clearly we weren't charging enough.
Exactly.
We were charging more than the ordinance called for, but we still weren't charging enough.
Correct.
Chelmsford residents are going to love this in Chelmsford.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilor, yes.
Somebody says it's a fee, it's a tax, it's a tax, it's a fee, but I don't look at it this way. I look at these fees as user fees. People are using the services of the city, and they have to pay a fee for it. If they don't, then the taxpayer pays for it. Because the amount of money that's trying to be raised here, the $1.6 million, if it isn't raised, if it's nickeled and dimed, if it's lowered, that amount that it's lowered by will go on a tax rate. And I think that'll affect a lot more people that should not be affected than the fee and the users. So that's where I'm coming from. I look at this as people who want to take out a permit, they need to pay for it, and if we don't make them pay for it, then the taxpayers will be paying for it. And that's not where I want to be coming from. I think if these fees that are being proposed, which haven't been raised in a long time, offsets that increased cost that the taxpayers are going to pay, then I'm for them. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilor Rita Mercier?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to withdraw that $10. It's going to be that way anyway, but if we put something there, it should be a little bit more clearer than to say an ordinance fee and a current fee and a this and that. So I'll take you to the next page on page 11, and I just need an explanation from 271, line 271, that says emergency service call for the water department from $50 to $100. In what instance would you have someone come over to, if you have a water leak, or is that what we're doing?
If you had a frozen water pipe or a water leak that you had to have.
So if you have a frozen water leak, it was $50 before, but we're raising it to $100?
Per call, correct.
Per call.
Which essentially pays for the service, the cost of the service, overtime and...
All right. Yes, you did, but I have another, on page 12, the next page, on 295, which says hydrant on private property. Tell me an instance where there's a hydrant on private property. Is it a business? Several businesses? Okay.
It's pretty much a tie-in fee.
It would be, so that's going from 400 to, That's going from $125 to $175. But these are just questions that I have. All right, that's fine. I want to go to page 18, and it's line 432. And this is the part that disturbs me. It says taxi cab plate registration. It's only going up $10, but beside it on notes, it says it's not enforced. Why do we bother having something if it's not ever enforced? Well, why do we not enforce anything?
I agree with you completely, Counselor.
And enforced is even spelt wrong, so if you can't spell it, I'm sure you can't even enforce it. But I don't understand why we have notes that say not enforced. All right.
433.
It was? Okay, so they caught it.
I don't see the note.
Well, Mr. Mayor, can we get an answer to that? Because I
Mr.
think
Manager,
that's reasonable. We enforce everything else, so.
Right, I believe this is, I've been advised by Mr. McCarthy that this is one that doesn't really come out. It's designated as being in the clerk's office, but it's not actually enforced through the clerk's office. It's enforced through the police department. And so this is a case where it has to be enforced by the police department now and not out of the clerk's office.
Then
These are matters that, again, this value in doing this on a regular basis to go through to keep up with the costs of the services that you're providing and keep yourself in check with what is being charged elsewhere. It's also very useful to go through this to, as you can see, we have a number of ordinance fees here, and unless you go back and look at them on a regular basis, you don't catch the fact that, in fact, some may not be actually enforced from time to time. So there's usefulness in going through this exercise.
Well, I agree, and I agree with the comments earlier that, we can differentiate between tax and fee, because most of the people or individuals that are assessed the fee are not necessarily taxpayers, with the exception of garbage disposal. But that's not on the tax rate because it's a contract. So I bring up the enforcement issue similar to the inspectors. We have to charge these fees. We have to increase them because we do have inspectors. We do have people at City Hall processing, whether it's dog fees or, common victualler licenses or, people in the Parks Department that want to use the fields. There is a cost because employees have to be paid, and, they're on the tax rate. So and taxpayers shouldn't have to pay for it, and that's one of the reasons why we should be here, because taxpayers are not necessarily the users, and in most cases they're not. So thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Councilor Rita Mercier.
If I could take you to page 23 on line 577, it says recreational day camps. There was never a fee, but now there's a $50 fee. What is a recreational day camps? What does that mean?
Frank, could you...
There's a state law that requires us to basically inspect and license day camps that are provided where children are actually under supervision during the day. And again, we have been told by the state that we've really got to get on those. There's Corey checks and other requirements, immunization records and the like. So it's actually a fairly elaborate program. So there aren't many of them in Lowell, but there are some, and this is just an attempt to recoup some of that.
That's a relatively new law as well.
That's correct.
That we're required
and
to do that.
they keep adding like Corey checks and other administrative requirements, so it's getting more and more onerous as it goes along.
And frankly speaking, I think this is a fee, if I may, Mr. Mayor, I think this is a fee that should be, now that it's being put in place, should really be reviewed very soon, because clearly the cost of sending an inspector out to inspect a day camp and go through all of the Corey checks and all this is certainly far more than $50 worth of value.
That's correct.
Thank you. If I could take you to...
Councilor, just
I'm
before,
sorry.
Councilor Ramirez. Councilor Donahue.
I was just going to ask if we could get some more information on the camps. I mean, for instance, there's one comes to mind, like, Girls Incorporated, it's a nonprofit organization. So can we find out what we're talking about, how many camps, who, because for example, it may be onerous to tax a nonprofit, or be it the Boys and Girls Club or something like that. So maybe what we should do is find out.
And there may be, certainly, there's a public benefit to having those camps in the city, since our recreation programs are so limited.
So if we can find out, on the other hand, if there's a for-profit camp, maybe it makes sense. But maybe before we change it, we should find out who they are.
Okay, we can get that, and again, I think this is something that we should be reviewing perhaps in the next budget year as well.
Okay. Councilor Iamercia.
Yes, thank you. On page 27, please.
Right.
On page 27, on line 678, that says private catch basin cleaning. Is that another business that has a private catch basin as well?
Yes.
We're learning a lot tonight, because I didn't even know they had fire hydrants on their property as well as
I'm
catch
sorry,
basins.
Councilor, what number line item was
It's
that?
678, the private catch basin cleaning. So in other words, we go through the city with the Vacon truck and we clean out the catch basins, but when we go on private property and clean out their catch basins, they pay a fee.
It would be on an emergency basis, but yes.
Okay, that's fine. Page 28, and if ever we could raise a fee, I would raise this, I would double this on line 698, that anybody that pays the treasurer's office with a bad check is paying a fee of $25. I'd make it 50, but that's just my opinion.
Well, if you'll note, Councilor, that I might agree with you on that, probably would agree with you on that, but as you notice, that does not change at all because that's set by statute.
Oh, it is? Okay, good. That was a question. All right. And I'm thrilled that you're going to not charge our seniors for the trash fee. That was my next step, was to see what we could do, and I was going to work out a compromise and go half, but you're going to be more than generous and leave it as it is, and so I want to thank you for that. And I only have, let's see, I have one more question, and then I'm all through. And that is on page 32, and I'm speaking on behalf of a constituent, namely Mark Goldman, on page 32, and I'm glad that Acting Superintendent LaValle is here, because I'm concerned about 819, line 819, that says license to possess a machine gun. I don't know who in there, I hope they're not my neighbors, but I don't know who would be, are they gun enthusiasts, where they're collectors, or what is that? And it's nobody in this room, I hope, that brought one up this evening. But
I don't see anyone.
Okay.
But this is, I believe, and Valley can verify this, I believe this is set by the state as to what you charge for this particular permit.
That's correct, Councilor. The Commonwealth of Massachusetts has firearms laws that encompass the charges that you see in front of you, and there's a part of the fee returns to the city, and some of it goes to the state, obviously. But there is a provision for a licensed gun owner to possess a machine gun. Typically, that's used for target practice and things like that. So it wouldn't be used for anything other than that, hopefully.
Well, you don't have to tell me who, but just with a yes or no, have we registered anybody with the...
I don't know.
You don't know that?
I don't know what the numbers of people who are in the city in terms of what types of firearms they possess.
Those that have those are not registered anyplace.
You're right.
Right,
Well,
exactly. The ones that are registered are the ones that we're certainly comfortable
You're all
with.
right. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
That's all my
Okay,
questions.
thank you. Councilor Ramirez?
I had a question regarding number 269. It's the one-time charge.
What page?
Page 10, I'm sorry. And I was just wondering if you could elaborate on that just a little bit.
I'll have Mr. Lay, if Dan...
Oh, yeah. $1,000.
Mr. Laif?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Ramirez, are you questioning 259?
Yeah.
269.
Sorry.
$1,000 there.
Right. That's for a multifamily unit, or that's for somebody comes into the city and wants to build a 10-unit garden-style condos, they'll pay the $3,000 entry fee, and then they'll pay $1,000 per each individual unit, instead of charging $3,000 per unit.
Now, that's for new, it says or existent, so,
Well, if somebody comes in and rehabs
Okay.
an old building or whatever they'd like to do.
so every time a new one is built or somebody comes in, they're gonna have to pay that one-time fee over and over? Or?
Oh, no, once it's developed.
Oh, for the developers?
Right. Right.
Okay.
It's because you add a new meter, or not necessarily?
Because, well, majority of the time when you come into larger buildings like that, there's only one meter. They'll run a larger main in with 1 meter. And it has been done, but it's really not practical to put 15 meters in a utility room. So that's why they like to run one large meter.
Okay, thank you.
Is there one thing I can clarify for Councilor Mercier? That the $777.36, the entry fee is actually $500, but that's for a 1-inch meter, and all the fittings and the serviceman going out there actually come to $777.13. So
you don't know anybody?
we haven't been overcharged. I don't want 1,000 angry residents at my door. So
Okay, thank you.
thanks.
Thanks, Dan.
All right, any further, Councilor Broderick?
No, I'd just like to reiterate what some of the other councilors have said, that, you know, these fees are for users, and it's obvious that whatever we don't raise, and many of them haven't been raised in over 10 years, that whatever we don't raise by cutting $4 or $10 is going to go on the tax rate. I would rather see people that use these services pay the fees, and they've been gauged in accordance with the local towns and municipalities. So I don't have a problem with the rates as they're presented, and I think that the other choice is to raise the taxes more in addition to what we're going to have to do, and I don't think that's acceptable. Thank you.
Councilor Caulfield?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to make note of the fact that it will not cost anyone to be married in one of our parks if they do it in 1 hour or less. So.
Let's hope the marriage lasts longer than that. Okay, so, Mr. Manager, you had a recommendation to amend?
I would amend by the...
Which line items were those?
Numbers 806 and 807 would remain at their current fees, as well as 806, 807, and 808. The elderly solid waste would remain at their current fees.
Okay, so motion to amend this proposal to leave those 3 items unchanged by Councilor Rita Mercier, second by Councilor Elliott. All those in favor of that amendment say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So that amendment is adopted. Mr. Manager, I had a couple of questions. Any objection for me to ask from up here? The person who spoke before talked about increases or surpluses in the water fees and the surplus in the sewer fees. And as I read this, I don't see really that anybody's water or sewer fees are going to be increased. Is that correct?
That is correct, Mr. Mayor. Those are left unchanged. We do have some water-related fees that we've already discussed that are specific to new construction and specialized services, but general water usage and wastewater usage remain the same.
So the water bill is not going up for anybody, nor is the sewer portion of the water bill.
That's
going to
correct.
be increased. And if you could elaborate on, I think all the councilors are aware that there's a surplus in the sewer account, but we also know we're facing some heavy bills coming in that department too. So I don't know if you could just elaborate for the public's benefit on that.
Well, as was pointed out by the speaker, there is a surplus in that account, but it is an enterprise account, so all the money remains within that enterprise. It does not come out of the enterprise into the general fund, other than the amount that has been approved by the Department of Revenue to essentially pay back the general fund for the money that had been fronted in the past. and then any indirect costs associated with the operation that are paid out of the general fund, such as health insurance, retirement, and the like. But the major reason that there is a balance within the enterprise is to pay for the upcoming debt service that will result from the implementation of the CSO project. With regards to the water operation, while that does turn back money into the general fund, it in effect, an analysis that we've done shows that it basically pays for itself and really not much more than that once you fully load in all of the costs associated with the water. Again, the employee benefits portion, insurances, and the like.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Elliott?
Including the debt for these new upgrades that we have done over, it probably should be an enterprise fund, but at this point, the debt is on the tax rate because it's never been established.
That's correct.
As an enterprise fund.
That's correct,
Okay.
Councilor. You recall that you've filed a motion that we've provided a report of progress, but we're going to be doing further work on the move of the parking operation as well as the water to an enterprise fund in the near future. And that's certainly one of our goals, is to do that.
Okay. Any further questions or comments? Okay, is there a motion to approve the proposed ordinance as amended by Councilor Broderick, second by Councilor Milonazo? Roll call, please.
Councilor Broderick?
Yes.
Councilor Caulfield?
Yes.
Councilor Donahue?
Yes.
Councilor Elliott?
Yes.
Mayor Martin?
Yes.
Councilor Armin Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Rita Mercia?
Yes.
Councilor Milonazo?
Yes.
Councilor Ramirez?
Yes.
9 yeas.
Okay, that concludes the public hearing on this matter, and I believe that also concludes the agenda. Councilor Caulfield?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Just before we leave, it'd be remiss if we didn't congratulate Andy St. Onge. The Christmas parade was absolutely phenomenal. But more importantly, the volunteers who offered their services, the business community that offered their vehicles, and more importantly, the city employees who helped as well. The children enjoyed it, and so did I. So it was a nice evening.
Move to adjourn.
Okay, motion to adjourn by Councilor Armin Mercia, second by Councilor Broderick. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? The meeting stands adjourned.